te shangi compagno toshu. And let's get the for limitless contemplation. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Sem jendam je dewatang dewe jutang denta juchik, dungal tang dungal chuchutang trawa juchik, dungal mepe dewa tampatang mindrawa juchik, nearing chaktang nitang trawe tangnong chenpo la nepa juchik. So, let's get going. Good evening, if I haven't seen you. Let me just get my file and let's get going. So tonight, we are going to do a very important subject. Get to it. Or the vital necessity of accumulating merit and wisdom. Now, you know what? If you look at this subject matter and you look at it superficially, you may think, well, accumulating merit is getting good karma. And in a way, accumulating merit is getting good karma. But we're going to take this teaching very much deeper than that. I want you to see that the accumulation of merit and wisdom is absolutely vital, especially if you want to go on a spiritual path, but also for if you want to lead a good life yourself. Okay, so it's really vital to actually understand why and how we need to accumulate merit and, of course, wisdom if we want to lead a meaningful, worthwhile life. So before this, I know a couple of weeks gap, but before this, we were studying the whole subject of purification, okay? And the purification of everything within our alaya consciousness. That's what we were discovering, including the karmic imprint and all our deep obscurations, especially our ignorance, which is ignoring the truth of who we really are. Okay, now it's really, really important because if you look at that alaya consciousness, I was told, they were asking me about it yesterday, and you can ask me about all the human consciousnesses next week if you want. But the alaya consciousness is the 8th level of the ordinary human consciousness of Sem. It's called Sem in Tibetan. And in there lies, as we know, all the imprints, all the obscurations, all the dents, all the thoughts, everything lies in that alaya consciousness. So this whole last sessions, and you can go back if you missed any, we were talking about purification of all the obscurations, the karmic imprints, the negativity, the ignorance, and everything. But a bird has 2 wings if it wants to fly. You can't fly without 2 wings. One wing is purification, and the other wing is called accumulation. And Rob Priest says, making a distinction between the practices orientated towards purification and the practices orientated towards accumulation is false, because these 2 can't be separated. We should rather see them as 2 ways of viewing the same process. So what purifies accumulates, and what accumulates purifies. It's really very important, and we'll discuss this at length. So I want to give you a beautiful story, a Buddhist story called The Dragon King's Son. There was an old man named Chu. He was well over 60. Now, in those days, over 60, that was chips, the end of your life, okay? Today, if somebody says they're 60, they're a young person, okay? Well, to me, they are anyway. He had done many good things throughout his life. In the old days, transportation was very difficult. He donated money to have roads made and bridges built so people could get around easily. People in need could always count on him for a handout. His neighbor had many good things to say about him. One day, he saw a fisherman on his way to the market to sell a carp that he had caught. This beautiful fish had red markings as bright and warm as a fire in the winter. Its eyes were as shiny as stars in the sky. Old Chu thought it would be such a shame to eat such a beautiful fish. So he bought the carp for a very high price and put it in the pond, and he felt very good about that. But Chu was an old man, 60, and in those days, and nobody lives forever. Not long after that, he felt weak, giddy, and despondent. He thought he might not live much longer. As he was lying homesick, a little servant boy came in and said, "Mr. Chu, my master has sent me to invite you to eat with him." Old Chu didn't recognize whose servant boy it was, but he thought getting out of bed might do him good, and a meal out would lift his spirits. He followed the boy, and he said, "I really must be sick," he thought as he made their way. "Everything looks hazy and glowing in the golden light." Before long, he found himself standing in front of an ornate palace with carved pillars and painted beam. A sign over the front door read, "The Crystal Palace." Strange, isn't that the name of the dragon's palace? Wondered Old Chu. In a few moments came out his host, a most impressive man with thick eyebrows, long eye, and 5 long strands of whiskers. He looked lively and powerful, yet virtuous. After they had chatted a bit, Old Chu found that his host was none other than the Dragon King himself. Together they enjoyed a rich feast of all the delicacies of mountain and sea. The Dragon King told Old Chu, "One of my sons was out playing the other day and was kidnapped by a bandit who was going to murder him. Fortunately, you were there to save him. For this, we are most grateful. Actually, your time on earth is just about up. Because you've rescued a dragon in the guise of a fish, you have earned the right to live longer. I've prepared this simple repast to express my gratitude and explain this to you." "I hardly dare to accept your generosity," Old Chu humbly replied. "From now on, I'll do even more good deeds to show my deep gratitude." After their feast, Old Chu woke up in bed with a full stomach. "It must have been a dream," he told himself, "but why am I so full?" He did many more good deeds and died peacefully many years later without any suffering at the age of 120. Okay, now you may say, "Well, that's a lovely fairy tale." Actually, it's not a fairy tale at all, okay? Because if you all open your consciousness, you will have visits to many different realms, okay? And in many different realms, you will find creatures very different to your human form, okay? And do not limit yourself by thinking that this earth plane is everything there is and that human beings are everything there is. We are such a tiny dot. And these kind of stories are actually very true. In fact, when I was in the UK and when I came back, I've been really, really, really visiting some very, very strange realms, okay, where very strange people live and very strange beings live. And I've really been visiting a lot of these and pointing my finger at a lot who were doing terrible deeds and telling them, so don't limit yourself to this. If you want to go to palaces and places, just ask before you go to sleep, prepare your mind. And then you open up to many, many, many different universes, different creatures, different beings, and they all exist. But anyway, what I want to tell you is that Lama Zangmo was telling us that when they went on the 4-year retreat, before they went to the retreat, each retreatant was told that they had to try before they went into retreat to save as many lives as their ages. So if you were 80 going into retreat, that's quite a difficult thing. But you have to save lives. So it's like you watch ants, the insects, the whatever, and you save their lives wherever they are, if they're drowning or whatever. And that is a very meritorious thing. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what merit does, because we're not only going to look at it as good deeds, we're going to look at how the accumulation, Shem, somebody's having a real struggle tonight, how the accumulation of merit starts to affect your enthusiasm, your vitality, your ability to touch people. It's such an interesting thing, hello, Pam. It's such an interesting thing to see what the accumulation of merit really is and wisdom, because we're going to take it very, very much deeper. And the important point for us to understand is in accumulation is that we've all learned that there are causes and conditions that happen on a relative level. And this is so good for enhancing our daily lives. But like everything that we learn, is that accumulation of merit can go past causes and conditions where we are enacting services to others in such a spontaneous way. And this makes such a deep impact. And it doesn't come from, I am doing this. It comes from way beyond in our Buddha nature, where the Buddha nature is working, the awakened nature, you don't have to use the word Buddha, is working through you. And it becomes simply an enlightened activity. Now, the whole teaching of merit is really, really a very important thing, because if you look at people with talent, it's such an amazing thing. Before I went, I had a week in which people were telling me a lot that they were unworthy of whatever they were doing in their lives. They felt kind of unworthy. When people feel unworthy, say they've got a lot of money, say they've got amazing parents, say they've got a fantastic partner, say they've got a beautiful home, and they don't feel worthy of it. And I always tell people, the important thing is to know that nothing comes to you, no thing comes to you without the accumulation of that meritorious base. So this is very, very important. It doesn't just happen that somebody is born and they become a wonderful singer because they've had the right training. They had to have the merit. Same with your practice. Some people come to the practice and it comes so easily because they actually have the merit which was accumulated in previous lives. And nothing is given to you of which you are unworthy. So if you really look at things, it's so amazing, because people say to me, you know, Melanie, I feel that I'm having such good fortune. Not too many are say that to me, because I only get all the ones that aren't having good fortune. But sometimes when I'm out, someone says, you know, it's amazing. Look what I've got and look where I am. And then I go, you know, it's a beautiful thing, because you wouldn't be where you were unless you had the meritorious markings which give you the thing. And the opposite, if you can't get something done. But if you look at famous people, you know, now it's the Wimbledon tennis. I don't know how many of you like it, but my husband has it on from morning till night. Okay, whenever he's there, he's got to watch everything on the tennis. But when you watch these tennis players, I mean, some of them are naturals from day one. They just get on that court at 10 years old and they've got a talent. And that's a talent which comes from merit. But how do you use that talent? And that's the important thing, because you see some that are so humble and some that are so arrogant. And once you have whatever you've got and you are arrogant about it and you don't share it, that is really taking the merit and stomping it in. So I always say to people, if you've got good things, share it. And you don't have to even share it physically. You can share it in your dedications, in your prayers. You share it with everybody. You offer it in the morning. You offer whatever you are good at. That's your talent. And you need to stop saying, well, my talent, so what? You offer it. And once you offer it, it's got to multiply. That's the law. That's the universal law. It's really important to know. If you look at some of the film stars, it's very interesting to watch them, because some of them get old and they can't do what they did before. And they have every conceivable surgery to their faces, their boobs, their bodies, their everything. They have everything they can do to make themselves young so that when they take photos. And when I look at the oldies trying to be as they were in their youth, that means you had merit, you had a talent. Now it's got to die a little bit so that you have the opportunity to actually prepare yourself for what is coming after this, because that talent is going to be washed away. And you see some of these beautiful film stars who later on in their lives, even dancers who just give themselves to giving to people and are very happy to step back from the limelight. Now, this is what we're talking about with merit, because a lot of you have got talents, and it's really, really important that you offer that talent for total service to others. A very important thing about merit. So tonight, I want to look at, I'll stop and breathe every few minutes to give you a chance to ask. But I want to take Rob Priest's teaching on accumulation, because I think almost every word that he teaches is what I believe. And I listened to a couple of YouTube of people talking about merit, and they talked about the 6 parameters, which we'll talk about a little bit, but I wanted more. I want more. I want to know how, if we purified things, how can we accumulate what we need to get enlightened? And think about it. If you want to get enlightened, if you want to really go on a serious spiritual path, you have to have the merit. Otherwise, there's no way you can get there. So Rob Priest says, it's often stated in Buddhist philosophy that unless we create the causes, we will not experience the result. And this applies to both positive and negative things, including the cultivation of realizations and attainments that result from meditation practice. So unless we have the necessary causes and conditions, we will not reap the results. Therefore, in order to attain the realizations of the path, we need to gather this potentiality through an accumulation of what is usually described as merit. He says merit in Tibetan, it's sonam, S-O-N-A-M, is a particular kind of virtuous karma that generates the fortunate ripening conditions, both inner conditions and outer conditions. This is so important, because do not think that everything, if you are born with a beautiful face and a beautiful body, that is truly merit. But see what you do with it afterwards, which is so important. So you do have to have it, both inner and outer, that enable us to develop a spiritual life. Now, I'm not saying that a lot of you don't want enough money, comfortable things, but it's quite a strange thing, because when I look at myself overseas, it's kind of like if we went to the shops, I was always looking, oh, I'd like that, and I'd like that, and I'd like this new top, and I'd like this new dress. And I go now, I took my older granddaughter who came shopping, and I couldn't look at the things. After about 5 minutes, I'd had enough. I said to her, I'm going to sit on the bench. I don't even want to see the clothes. You kind of come to a stage in your life where those external things do not have the same meaning as when you are trying to be glamorous and when you are trying to be something. And I want you to understand this, because the merit I'm really talking about more tonight is the inner merit. Because as soon as you've got the inner merit, you shine. No matter what you look like, no matter how you dress, no matter what place you walk into, there you are, generating light immediately. And you need the merit to do it. Merit is generated through a particular quality of intention and can be seen as a kind of propulsion directed towards the inner and outer condition that benefit the practice of Dharma. It is often said that we are able to practice and have favorable circumstances for the Dharma only because we have at some point accumulated the merit required, especially when we experience, he says, hindrances or obstacles to the practice on the spiritual path. It's because we do not have the merit. And if any of you really find it difficult to get into the practices, and I have this all day, people say to me, I really find it very difficult to actually do the practices. I don't really understand them. It doesn't come to me. It really means you haven't had it before. And whatever circumstances you are going through, you don't get it. Whereas when you've got the accumulation of merit, you get things, you get people, you get circumstances. It's much more than just the physical things or even just the practices. In the Tibetan tradition, there's a particular emphasis, he says, on quite consciously accumulating merit so we will have the necessary ingredients for practice. He says there are specific ways in which merit is accumulated in the preliminary practices. Okay, very important. And I'm not going to do it, so I don't think I'll get as far as that tonight. But it's really important because there are practices that are specifically for accumulating merit. If you do them by rote, and you're just doing them because they accumulate merit, no ways. But I want to say to you that in that book that you bought, Tatiana, of the Dzogchen deity practice, you will find little prayers in that of 4 lines, and we will look at some of them that are absolutely amazing. They don't take you more than a half a second to say. But if you say them with everything, you accumulate as much merit as you do for long, involved practice, which a lot of us don't really have time for. It's the intention. It's what you do. If you are doing a bodhicitta prayer of 4 lines wanting to help, you can do it with the greatest beauty, and it can take you half a minute. So it's really the intention of your heart that accumulates all these merit. And he says, merit is a natural outflow of life dedicated to the service of others with a beneficial and compassionate quality of intention. The actions of our daily life become a basis of merit. And he says, if we are able to cultivate the quality of bodhicitta in our life, much of what we do, whether work or family life, becomes the basis for the accumulation of merit. Bodhicitta, or the awakening mind, is often described as the intention to fully awaken for the welfare of all sentient beings. And this quality marks the life of a bodhisattva in service of the welfare of others. If we have bodhicitta intention, there is less self-conscious collection of merit. Merit mustn't be something you say, I'm going to do this, it's going to be merit. Sometimes, when a beggar's at the side of the road and I really feel for him, and I've got all these coins in my car, and I open and I give it to him, I often wonder, am I giving it because I think that's a good thing to do? Or am I giving it because I really want to help him? So what I decided I would do is that as I gave it to him, I would go, Om Mani Padme Hum. Okay, so that he not only got the 5 Rand or the 10 Rand, but he also gets something that's going to penetrate his being for all time. It's really important. And often people describe how they're living such demanding lives that they're unable to practice the Dharma. But their comments reflect an underlying assumption that Dharma practice is sitting on a meditation cushion in retreat and not the daily routines of life. Such an attitude implies we have some kind of hindrance to the practice, which is our normal life, and fails to recognize that the actions of our daily life, when they are pervaded by the quality of bodhicitta, become our Dharma practice. Become our Dharma practice. You know, a little action to someone. But what I want to say is, in the beginning, it might be intentional because we know that if we don't have the merit, we won't be able to do it. But eventually, it becomes a way of life like the Buddha. And I'll explain to you how the Buddha's body was a total meritorious thing, totally. And how if we get the merit, I mean, it's such an amazing thing, because someone like Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, when they saw him in old age, they said, he looks absolutely beautiful, better than ever. The wrinkles seemed to disappear. Everything seemed to disappear because he was showing the Vajra body because of the merit of all that he'd accumulated in his life, which is so beautiful. So I'm going to stop in a moment. I just want to give you a couple more things. So then our life becomes an accumulation of merit that gradually ripens in the experiences of loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom. And the accumulation of merit is one part, and the accumulation of wisdom we're going to do afterwards, because they're both very, very important. Also, 2 wings of the bird, okay? Our life is as much a basis of practice as retreat. And when motivated in the right way, will support our development. And it's often in the accumulation of merit that our behavior has a significant effect. So if we can't considerate and etc. to people and prepared to help and take care of others in our work life or private life, then we will definitely accumulate merit. Now, it's really important, because accumulating merit gradually both ripens the inner conditions for deeper and deeper practice and provides the outer conditions for practice. Now, I want you to think of something very important here. You know, when I really, really listen to the teachings of some of these very high masters, okay? And we are so blessed that we've got it on YouTube and things like that. Some of these really, really high masters, you will see that they don't actually practice. They don't sit down on the cushion of practice. Their life becomes a practice, and their life becomes a practice that flows through them. And for instance, if you looked at Akong Rinpoche, he never did any formal practice. It's such an interesting thing. We, of course, have to do it because we have to get there. But all the high masters will tell you non-meditation is the best meditation. Now, what happens if you're an ordinary person and you go, oh, good, so I don't have to do meditation now. Marvelous, okay? I'm so glad non-meditation is true meditation. That's not it. It's when you reach a point that you are meditation. You are the flowing of this beautiful life through you. Wherever you are touching people animals, beings of every kind of nature, they will just be magnetized to you. That's when you don't need to do the formal practice. But until that time, you need to do the formal practice. But when we come to the mandala offering, which I'm going to teach you after we've got through the bases, when you come to the mandala offering, you can do that offering in your own words and your own way, with your own talents and your own beauty. Because what you are doing actually in a mandala offering is you are offering everything that you have for the benefit of all sentient beings. And that is how you do merit. And in the beginning, if you have to try and make yourself do good deeds, that's okay. Because eventually it'll really, really work and pay off. So it's good if you start to do that in the beginning. But I think that accumulating merit ripens those inner conditions for deeper and deeper practice and your outer life. And it gathers the necessary ingredients. And when the time is right, this will ripen. And Rob Priest says there are many people who really do amazing things with their life for others. And suddenly their mind ripens. They don't have to go through all the basic things that we are doing. Their mind just opens. And people think, how did they get there? How did they do it? It's because the mind, the nature is operating through you. You don't need to do the formal practice. The formal practice is to get you to actually go through the steps where you are linking your mind to your own awakened mind. And we need to do that when we haven't got that kind of merit. It's really, really important. And I just want to say that in the sutra tradition of Buddhism, that's the very basic teachings, mainly that Buddha Shakyamuni gave. Okay, he mainly gave the sutra teachings to people because that's what people could understand. All the stories, Zong Sakiensi calls it Cinderella teachings. All the stories and all the things so that people can relate to it, blah, 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 okay. And of course, the 6 parameters is what was taught. You can have 6 parameters, you can have 10 parameters. You can Google them. There are many things on them. But the parameters are really, really the 6 perfections, the 6 crossing over to the shore. So these particular things are really, really, really very, very, very important because they are transcendent qualities. So I think a lot of you know the 6 parameters, and if you don't, it's important to know them. Generosity, I don't think I have to talk much, but remember, generosity is not only giving things, it's giving of yourself. It's really giving of yourself to people. When you don't care, whatever a person needs, you are what White Tara says, the wish-fulfilling wheel. You are there to benefit others and you become the wish-fulfilling wheel. So if somebody needs something, the Buddhas could say, if you needed a pill, they became a pill. If you couldn't cross a river, they became a bridge. Well, we don't have that. We don't have that ability yet. But you can become. 2 people said to me yesterday, Melanie, I don't know what I would do if you didn't help me along this path. And I said, and I don't know what I would do if you didn't ask me to help you along this path. Because the fact that we meet each other is what I'm here for and what you're there for. And if you can have that attitude, then nothing else matters in your life. And the parameters, the generosity is going beyond morality or ethics. That's very, very important. Someone was asking me, they're in a situation, a medical situation, where they want to sue for a particular thing. And I said to this person, please, will you only sue if you're sure of your motivation? Because usually when someone does something to you that is wrong, your motivation is revenge. And we don't have the ability to see the full picture of what is really happening there. We don't know why this has happened to us. We can't see that it might be good fortune that this has happened to us. So you've got to check your motivation, and ethics, the parameter of ethics or morality is very important. Then the parameter of patience. Oh my goodness. Okay, patience. When you're caught in a traffic jam in London on a boiling day, and the traffic doesn't move 1 inch and somebody's waiting for you on the other side, what can you do? You have to develop patience. And that patience in a transcendent fashion is also being patient about your development, patient about how much progress you've made, patient about people that can't understand you, patient that transcendent quality is way beyond everything. Patience is one of the greatest virtues. I'm trying, but I'm not very good, okay? Because the thing is, we have to be patient. And what the thing I have learned is that when people really don't get it, I'm very patient. That I have learned, okay? I mean, when people say, Melanie, this might be a stupid question, I go, stop. Nothing's a stupid question. Never is there such a thing as a stupid question. Every question is relevant. And if I can't answer it with patience, even if it's something I've told you 1 million times, then I haven't got the parameter. I'll just go up to these parameters and then I'll stop. Perseverance is the fourth parameter, perseverance. Putting in that perseverance. Now, you know what? There are beautiful teachings on laziness. Such beautiful teachings. I came across them the other day. There are so many aspects of laziness, you won't actually believe it. And if you ask me about it, I'll get out that little booklet or whatever, wherever I saw it, I'll find it, and I'll teach it to you. Because perseverance, have you got it? Will you go back to a task if you don't get it? Will you go back and do it for that person again, even though you don't feel like it? Perseverance. How much perseverance do you have? Ask yourself, how much effort can I really put in? Are you cold? It's very hot for me. How much perseverance can you put in? You know, how many times can you go back to the task? Think about it. Ask about it. And then the fifth one is meditation. And they often call it, you know, that stability of your mind. They call it meditation. And, you know, to me, it's not about clearing your mind. I don't really think we little human sentient beings can clear our minds. Really, when Tuku Urgent says, just when you haven't got thoughts, I don't think we can ever not have thoughts. I think we trained for so many years and so many eons to have thoughts. It's how we see those thoughts, how we attach, how we cling, how we don't allow them to go up, as I was saying yesterday in the group, and come back into the essence. That's what meditation is. The stopping of the clinging, the stopping of the grasping, the stopping of the analysis, just letting everything be. And the final one is wisdom. And I'm going to tackle that as a whole subject, because wisdom is the most beautiful subject. Ignorance is the opposite of wisdom, and it's when you absolutely ignore the truth of who you are, and you live in a delusion. Today, somebody was asking me, so Melanie, I'm going into the last phase of my life, and what do I have to do? And I said, sit and carefully look at your fears. All the fears. You're about to move into a new era of your life, into a new home. She's going to move into a retirement village. All these things. I said, look at all your fears, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. Okay, look at them, because none of them are real. They're just based on conditioning. And if you want to accumulate merit, you have to face whatever it is that you're going through in your life. You have to look directly at it and see the mirror and see what it is telling you. And give yourself the courage and the perseverance. Look at what's happening. I said, you come to a point where you can't be responsible for every one of your family members. You get to that age and stage. They've got to work it out for themselves. But you're there compassionately, and you watch each phase of your life takes you into a different era, a different accumulation of merit, a different way of practicing, a quieter inner life, which is really important, because you said to me, well, I must keep busy. I said, the opposite. Try and still your busyness for a bit. Do you know why people can't still their busyness? Because they're frightened. They're frightened when they're not busy. Because then you really look at yourself. So the parameters, and you can go on to the other 4 if you want, but we won't do them now. But it's really important for you to understand that to further our understanding of the idea of accumulation, it's useful to consider what the eventual effect of accumulation is. According to both Sutra and Tantra teachings, a Buddha's form body, okay, or Rupakaya, is developed fully and only by the accumulation of merit. So what is that? The perfect body. Shakyamuni Buddha was born into what is called the supreme Nirmanakaya, or the supreme manifestation body, which is the result of a vast accumulation of merit through the practice of the 6 parameters in many previous lives. And this body is endowed with what is described as the 112 major and minor marks of a Buddha, all the beautiful qualities that you have, including things like the color of his skin, the shape of his eyes, the wheels or chakra marks upon the palm of his hand, the color of his hair. Can you understand that when these beautiful beings are in their supreme Nirmanakaya, they have a perfect body, perfect. And that body can do anything and be anything. And they really have those marks. They can see the relative world. They can see the ultimate world. And that all comes from the accumulation of merit. And if it goes further than the Nirmanakaya, it gives rise to the manifest, the form of the Buddha, but the form has 2 aspects. One is relatively gross and one is subtle. The gross aspect is known as the Nirmanakaya, or manifestation body, which is the actual perfect physical human form of a Buddha, while the subtle aspect is known as the complete enjoyment body, or Sambhogakaya. The Sambhogakaya is called the enjoyment body. How divine. Imagine being in an enjoyment body all day long, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, okay? And it's described as the indestructible or Vajra body, the complete transformation of our subtle energy wind body into its totally purified and blissful state. And this energy wind body is more uneasily understood in the tantric tradition. Why? Because from a sutra point of view, he accumulated all the merit over a number of the two form bodies, over a number of lifetimes, creating all the necessary karma. From a tantric perspective, and we all do the deity practice, which is the tantra, it is said that this accumulation can be gathered even within one lifetime, because there are some extremely potent practices within the tantric path, and also because the focus for the accumulation of merit lies in the subtle energy wind body. Now, what does this mean? I gave you some of this in the purification. To arrive at a tantric perspective, we need to change our understanding of merit as being based on the idea of karma. Karma is too easy, and karma is very complex anyway. But to an understanding of merit as a quality of vitality within the energy wind body. Now listen carefully what he says. He says, it's often said that if we don't have the vitality, the inspiration, or the personal power, we can't achieve what we want, whether this is our work or some physical project. And he says, it's very clear to me, he says, that when I have no energy, I also have no enthusiasm. And I found it extremely difficult to apply myself to what I'm doing. He says, exhaustion is an energetic experience, Lama Yeshe says, a state of mind that has a dramatic effect on our capacity to engage with life, as anyone with ME or post-viral syndrome will testify. Now look at the people that have got ME and the people that have got all the difficulties where you can't move. That means the subtle wind body has absolutely frozen, and now it's expressed itself on a physical level. So the person is sick, but the sickness goes back to the mind. There's no energy, there's no enthusiasm, there's no vitality. How many of you sometimes look at work and you think, I'm so tired, I don't feel like it? Then you know that you're not accumulating merit and that you don't have that actual merit. We need to charge it. So, I'm sorry, I was really going to stop much earlier. So to just go back to some of these things, maybe somebody wants a question or to comment or something, because it's a lot that I'm giving you. And next week, you can pull it to pieces and let's talk about it. How can I put energy into my life? How can I accumulate more merit? What can I do to change my non-enthusiasm in this life? Anybody ask? I know, Tati, you have all your little questions. Go for it.
I'll leave for the next meeting because it's a lot. It's a topic I have contemplated a lot. So.
And so what's your opinion?
One thing I find is the word merit. I think it's our concept of merit is different of what merit is in the context of the Tibetan Buddhist or cultural meaning of it. So the way that I see or I was seeing is merit as something that it makes you worthy of having something. Like, for example, you get a degree and you get merit on your degree and everything like that. And it's not quite that
Yeah,
simple. It's different than that. It's more than that.
much, much more. And that's why I'm going into how, if you are finding that your life has no vitality, no enthusiasm, no energy wind to perform it, it means there isn't merit and you are lacking in it and you are always fatigued and you don't feel like doing things very easily. It's really an important thing, what we're talking about. It's very important. And so take your questions. You can ask them all next week. But anyone want to say anything or comment? Kati, can you do it while you're walking? She's hard. She's always walking from the station.
No,
Anybody?
I'm nearly home, and then I'll ask my question.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, you're amazing that you do it like that, really. And you've always had enthusiasm, which is important. You've always been enthusiastic.
Can I mention something?
Please.
It's quite interesting, the idea of merit. Example, there's a story I heard from a teacher once. If you are a cat of a woman, a millionaire woman, and the woman dies and leaves you all the money, you have all that merit and you can't really use it.
I love that example. That's beautiful. Absolutely. And it's absolutely true.
It's useless.
Yeah. And so many times, I watch children in wealthy families and everything who don't appreciate, what they've got. And they've just always had everything at their beck and call, which is their merit. But, what are you going to do with that which you have? That's the most important thing. And you see what he's talking about here is that he says, which I must go back to, he says, to arrive at a tantric perspective, we need to change our understanding of merit as being based on the idea of karma to an understanding of merit as a quality of vitality within the energy wind body. Now remember, from the purification, the energy wind body carries all your negative emotions and everything. So if you're filled with that, you're not going to be able to go forward and do things. You see, it's so deep because I watch, for me, if people say to me, some people that meet me after a long time, are you still teaching, Melanie? Because if you look back in my life, I mean, I've been teaching for over 50 years, not Buddhism, but I was teaching psychology and lectures and everything. And they say, are you still teaching? And then I go, that's what makes me enthusiastic. That is what I came to do, to try from really my limited perspective to give whatever I could give. That's what makes me enthusiastic. It runs in my energy winds, that, being able to teach and being able to enlighten people in some way or another, doesn't matter what level. Even my dogs, when Yeshi won't prostrate, every time he won't prostrate, he's tired or something, I go, you are going to learn to bend the knee, my boy. Because if you don't bend the knee, you are going back to a little dog's life. Okay, now you've got me, you found me, and I'm trying to do all the prayers so that you can go back to being a human being. But it's so important because he's got a certain arrogance. You can see it. Sometimes you say to him, come here. And he goes like this. And I go, come here. And you can see it. And that arrogance, demerited him because he's very intelligent, and caused him to go into a little body. And that little body knows so much and suffer. The first owner abandoned him. Then he got attacked by a dog, lost a kidney. Then he lost an eye. You know, he's just gone through all these things. It's very clear to me. And my role is to say to him, you must get the benefit of my practice. You sit next to me and you prostrate every morning, and you get the benefit so that you can go back to being a human, even though you won't have all these bones and you won't have all these blankets and you won't have all the things you've got, but you'll be able to get enlightened. I tell him that often. And that's our role, to do that, to wake up. And he says here, the not karma, but understanding merit as a quality of the vitality in the energy wind body. And he says, exhaustion is that energetic experience. Just as we need energy, enthusiasm, and perseverance to perform and sustain the normal tasks of life, so too with the task of our spiritual life. If we have little vitality and inspiration generally, we will have little energy and motivation to engage in our practice. On a deeper level, if we lack a certain quality of vitality, our mind will simply not be able to engage with the level of concentration required by meditation. We will struggle with visualization and find it hard to feel the effects of practice. When our energy is depleted, there is dryness and deadening of our practice. Our mind is sluggish and lacks enthusiasm, and we find it just hard to settle in meditation and are easily drawn to the distractions of television and other ways to anesthetize ourselves. We want to anesthetize ourselves, okay? And he says, sometimes I hear people say how much they would like to do the practice, okay? They want to meditate, but instead they get pulled into a dullness that makes them just want to watch rubbish on the TV for hours into the night, as though they can't help themselves. Now, it's really easy to get hooked to Netflix and things like that. It's really easy because they're lovely things to watch, you know. And I think it is part of that especially when you get on in life, that you really see, listen, I've got to prepare for what's coming after this. I need to be sure. And I said to the same person today, I said to her, look at all your family, each and every one of them, and see that actually these are not your real family. These are the family of this lifetime. And when you're coming to the end, you need to be self-sufficient in yourself to go back to the real family where you belong. This is just a temporary, transient thing. Now, that's so hard for people. When I was in the UK, there were 6 grandchildren, and I looked at all of them, and they're all busy, and they're all on iPads, and they're all at school, and they're all activities and everything. And I looked at all these children, and even the older one that came, and I actually said to myself, actually, you are not mine. You don't belong to me. I'm just in a temporary state here. We are interacting with each other. We need to give each other what is necessary in this life. And then I need to move on. And so she said to me, the same woman, what will you do when you die if your family is all around your bed and, you know, they're telling you things or pulling you or anything? I said, I'll simply say, please sit me up. And please, if you want to sit quietly there, that's really fine. but believe me, I have lots to do. Okay, and I do, because I want to make sure that at that time of death, that I'm so prepared and so ready. And when we do the mandala offering, which we won't be able to do tonight, we'll do it after the discussion group. When we do it, we will see what a real mandala is and how that real mandala is in your heart deeply. It's all the qualities of your awakened mind. And when you come to death, if you are able to recognize that mandala when you have left, if people are not distracting you and you are able to recognize that mandala, you are free. So like at the time of death, it is not only important to concentrate, but it's important to really prepare yourself. So just to finish quickly with Rob Priest's things, and then we'll do a little meditation. In our spiritual journey, therefore, we need to generate the energy and inspiration to give us a charge of vitality and bring our practice alive. Now, the Buddha gave 84,000 practices, and one of them must excite you. And I don't really care whether it's 4 lines that excites you. I just don't want you to do long, arduous practices that have got no vitality and no excitement in you. You know, there's a particular article of Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche. So strange, because that article, the first time I read it, it was on all the key points of who you are. It nearly blew my mind. And then one day I was in a hurry and I read it again thinking I might teach it, and it gave me nothing. Now the other day it popped up when I was doing some preparation and it blew my mind again. And I thought, how can you study something and once it means absolutely nothing, and the next time it actually blows your mind? Now think about that, because practice is the same. Sometimes I do the dullest practice. I keep doing it because I've got that perseverance, but it's a day when my mind's all over the place and I'm not doing it the way I really should. But even so, just to be able to have that moment of excitement where you know is a wonderful feeling. And he says some of the preliminary practices are orientated towards an accumulation of this vitality. They are compiled for that, or energy and inspiration. The two aspects of energy and inspiration are very connected in how they generate it. He said a practice that accumulates energy and inspiration is like a battery charger. Now, my computer was nearly on empty today. And then I go, pick, put the charger in, and an hour or so later, it's charged, it's full of vitality again. We just like that. How do we charge our battery? He says, a practice that accumulates energy and inspiration is like a battery charger that restores and recharges the power of our vitality, and also gives us the enthusiasm and joy to practice and attain experience. Once we've generated this energy, we will discover that when we embark on the highest yoga tantra practices, they have a fertile ground in which to grow. And he says there are many preliminary practices that generate the merit. 2 of them are the mandala offering, and I'm going to do it in a different way with you, and the practice of Guru Yoga also does amazing merit. And he says some of the lesser ones, like putting water bowls has a real meritorious effect when you put your 7 water bowls on the thing. And then each water bowl you're putting in, you're going, I pay homage, Omahung, I pay homage. Then the next one, I make my offerings. Then the next one, Omahung, I ask for forgiveness. And the next one, I rejoice in the good of others. And the next one, I ask the Buddhas to remain Omahung and turn the wheel of Dharma for me. And I dedicate whatever merit I get to the sake of all sentient being. When you put those water bowls every day, which I like to do, it doesn't matter if you don't. But these are reminders. These are beautiful things that you have and lots of other things. And he says, so we generate vitality, and when we begin to release the natural energy within our system, the experience is immensely powerful within our current state of being. We may hardly be able to access this innate potential. When practiced skillfully, the preliminaries really begin to release the potential, and then we find our entire sense of being will become more energetic and inspired, and we will free more energy for practice, and our mind will have the ability to go deeper. And I think essentially, he says we're beginning to free our innate capacity from the obscuration that prevents it from manifesting. That's maybe one of the most important points, where he says we put the obscuration because we don't think we have the ability. But like Zongsa says, we are green tomatoes, but we are still tomatoes, okay? We just need to ripen. But our inheritance, because of who we are, is already there. We just have to claim it by having confidence in it. Tammy, you asked me a very important question. I won't tell the question, but you asked me, why am I going through a particular thing in my life? So I audioed her back from the UK, and I said, you're going through what you're going through because this is one of the difficulties you created previously. You can't even remember it. And if you remember the difficulties you created, then you go towards whatever difficulty you're getting and you bow to it. And you think, thank you, because mirror-like wisdom is telling me this is the way I can accumulate merit, by accepting my situation, by surrendering my resistance. Do you all understand what I'm saying with all my heart tonight? I know you do, Ika. And Ika's also gone through such a struggle in her beautiful talent, and your beautiful talent will be coming into fruition. I promise you. You know why? Because you've got the energy and the vitality now to accept the difficulties you've had to go through. Amazing. The Tibetans would say, Emaho, how wondrous. It's nothing. When you go through difficulties, it's nothing. If you go through them with gratitude and speed and vitality, you're there. Are you home now, Patty? Do you want to ask your question? We're going to do a little meditation. Anyone want to ask?
I can I can leave it for next week, but I mean it's just about dealing with people that are very blocked, and you know, yeah, because if you can give so people a chance and be compassionate and be compassionate and be compassionate, and then eventually it's like, you know, you're not willing to open up at all. So then, you know, does that close? Does that mean we don't get merit because we're tired of that? Or yeah, my question is around that, and I'll think about it this week.
Please ask about it, but I just want to say one thing in answer to you. Okay, what I was telling them yesterday morning, our inheritance is enlightened body or Vajra body, enlightened speech, which is the most wonderful speech in the world, enlightened mind, qualities, enlightened qualities. Those are all your parameters and your compassion and your wisdom. And lastly, enlightened activity. Now, what's the difference between enlightened activity and ordinary activity? Ordinary human activity has ego. Enlightened activity is only to benefit people. So someone said to me the other day, you know what? This relationship of mine, I mean, this guy just doesn't see what I can see. You know, he doesn't see it, and then he blames me, and then it's like a projection on me. And I said to her, you're going to have to use the enlightened quality of pacification. And what does that mean? The enlightened quality of pacification doesn't mean you become the idiot and you accept everything, you know, that's happening. Pacification is what Machik Lobtron did to the demon who wouldn't let her across the water. She took her body, okay, she let her body go into nectar. She went into the other dimensions. Her body was chopped up and into nectar, and she fed it to the demon. And the demon softened, and she could walk through the water. That's the whole practice of Chur. Now, how do you apply an enlightened activity? If somebody is ugly and somebody is really not understanding you, you need to use pacification of some sort, like a dummy. Okay, a dummy to a baby. You can't feed a baby unless you put a dummy in. And we were talking about it in the morning group in Yeshi Tsogil's prayer. The enlightened activities are without ego. And how do you do them? Let's talk about examples next week. How do you pacify people?
Yes.
Do you agree with them? Or do you use an enlightened technique which embraces them, magnetizes them, and makes them feel safe so that you can then change whatever it is? You see, we can't do it easily.
Yeah. Yes.
But do you understand that if a Buddha coughs, the cough can enlighten somebody? Every single part of his being is to benefit beings. We can't, because we're so busy defending the ego. We can't even do the enlightened activity. Let's talk about it next week.
Yes. Great.
And then the week after, we'll do what is a mandala. Not only for all of you who want to do a mandala offering, but to really understand what a mandala is and why do you offer it and what is the surrender about, which then accumulates magnificent merit. So let's just do a quick meditation. I'll just do the gong with the sound and then I'll get off. So I want you all to just breathe in and breathe out. Really some deep breaths, because a lot has been discussed tonight. There's a lot of pondering. There's a lot of contemplation. There's a lot to digest. And I really hope you can digest it and you can come to terms with a lot of the things that you're going through. Sometimes, if you bravely go through them, you are already on the path to accumulating merit. When we talk about accumulating wisdom, then we understand the meritorious process properly. So merit and wisdom. So breathe in. As you breathe in, I want you to feel a total gratitude for this human life. You may be going through a hard time. You may not have all the things you want. Your children might be struggling. You might be having a problem with finances. But never mind. I want you to breathe in gratitude. Actually feel it in your heart. Real gratitude for your difficulties. And I want you tonight to just actually dissect your hearts open. Just cut them with a knife, your heart. Open it out. Allow it to totally open. Just look around the world and feel how you can actually serve, how you can benefit yourself out of the equation, and open your heart and remember you've got that awakened nature. It's yours. It's there already, even before you've gone on a journey. So allow it to open. Allow it to go through you into all the beings you know, into the wars, into the hatred. Just pour your beautiful, beautiful love that's always been stored in your heart. Pour it into the wars. Pour it into selfish leaders. Pour it into all the suffering of so many beings. Pour it into the insects that are struggling in their lives. Pour it into the animal life that just can't find their way. Just pour everything you've got into all beings, in all realms, in all the 6 realms of samsara and beyond. Just open yourself out. Feel the beauty of the mandala of Guru Rinpoche pouring into you, and you pouring it out. Just go forth this week grateful, grateful. And know that all of you have amazing merit. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here on a Tuesday night trying to understand the teaching. You just wouldn't come because you wouldn't have the merit to do it. Remember that. So let's dedicate thee, and then if anybody wants to ask, you're really welcome. And let's dedicate to all sentient beings, to those at war, to those in the floods in Texas. I saw people just waiting to see if their children could be found, and now 2 days have gone by, or 2 days, and probably those children are not going to be found alive, and that must be the most terrible thing. And we dedicate all of this to all those beings, to the families of hostages waiting to see if they would ever come back, to the families in Ukraine who really just can never go out without bombs dropping on them, to all the people all over the world, to all the animal life, to all the insects, to all everything. If there's one little bit of merit in the teaching tonight, let it be to all of those who are suffering. And through this merit, may all beings attain omniscience, May all obscurations fall away from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may all beings be freed. Sonam diye tamche zipane, topne nepe dranam tamshene, jeganachi balap dropaye, sipe sole, doa do warsho.